September is Suicide Prevention Month, and for veterans, the need to support remains critical, and recognizing the warning signs can help save lives. So here to share more is Shantae Franco, an Army veteran, and Lindsay Gray with the Wounded Warrior Project. Thank you both for joining us, and thank you, Shantae, for your service.
Thank you.
Shantae, we understand that you've survived 2 suicide attempts and have since turned these incredibly difficult experiences into a mission to help others. What helped you move forward and get to where you are today?
Well, what helped me move forward was starting to build a life worth living, and I was able to do that with connection. So with Wounded Warrior Project, there's so many opportunities to connect with other warriors so that you don't feel alone. For myself, I felt like I was the only one going through what I was going through. And what's not often talked about is the reality after the suicide attempts. And afterwards, I still felt isolated. I felt alone. I felt that I was just going through the motions. And then when I was able to connect with others who were either in a similar space as myself or was a little bit further in their healing journey than myself, I was able to finally, for the lack of a better term, see the light. And that I had a way to move forward. I'm very service oriented. That is my love language. And I started volunteering. And I will be the first to say that I am not an altruistic person. Volunteering for me helps me stay connected and it keeps me in the moment. It keeps me in the present. And now I help others see their purpose. And it's become a mission. It's become a mission in my life.
Shantae, you look so strong, and I will say that when I've volunteered myself, that giving and just knowing that you're making the impacts can also give you that great feeling inside. I can now, see and appreciate your strength for sure. Lindsay, you worked directly with veterans and suicide prevention. What are some of the warning signs that friends and family should be paying attention to?
Yeah, I think, this is a tricky question when we think of suicide prevention because suicide is so complex and everybody starts thinking about suicide for a different reason. And that means their warning signs will all be a little bit different. And so for friends and family, I just encourage you to pay attention, right? Pay attention to where you might be seeing them do things that are a little bit out of the norm or hearing them talk about changes with their sleep or their appetite, right? Again, those changes in baseline can be really important. And then just being curious to ask questions. It's sometimes easy to make assumptions about what those things mean or assign meaning to them based on our own experiences. And so, yeah, just paying attention to those sometimes really subtle changes in people.
And I appreciate that. Shantae, we know that talking about suicide obviously can feel very uncomfortable and being something that is definitely taboo for not just Houston, but Americans and probably across the world. How can we start having those open and honest conversations? Because, when you feel like people don't care, it's hard to open up.
Absolutely. I will say that we have to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. It is an uncomfortable conversation, and I think the most uncomfortable conversations are the ones that are needed the most. So to start the conversation, if you see someone that you are concerned about, just be open about your concern. First, know that you're not there to fix anything. And like Lindsay said, lead with curiosity. Keep yourself open. Don't try to understand where they're coming from. Just hold that space because that's the most important part. And just starting off a conversation like that opens doors.
Mm-hmm. Certainly does. So important. And Lindsay, what is the Wounded Warrior Project doing to end veteran suicide, and where can we go to learn more?
Yeah, it's a hard problem to solve because the scope of suicide in the community is so great. I mean, VA's most recent report estimates roughly 17 veterans are dying by suicide every day. And so we're trying to take a holistic approach to support not only veterans and their families, but also active duty service members, and anyone in this community really through a couple of things. One is awareness, right? How are we reducing stigma? How are we paying attention more intently? Action, connecting people to the programs and services that not only reduce risk, but also promote protective factors. So things like connection. And lastly, on a national scale, really advocacy. How can we use our veterans' voices to raise awareness of the challenges that people are facing, increase access to care, and remove barriers to those necessary treatments?
Yes, and I know that sometimes it's just one moment or just a few hours to get someone past such a deep, dark thought. And I certainly appreciate talking to both of you, Chante and Lindsay. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.